Let's do it.
Go. What's up? What's up?
Leo, how's it going?
Tyler the man. Tyler the man.
Always good to see
Um,
you.
yeah, I get to see you too. Like we don't get to do that anymore now. What? It's been
Great.
about 30 days?
Yeah,
30 days going on another 30 days.
feels like longer.
I know.
Right.
So I could never pronounce your name. So Tyler, what is
Take a
it?
stab at it.
Is it Tyler Meinecke?
Close, close. I'm Meinecke. So
Meinecke.
people always think I'm related to Meinecke mufflers. No relation, but it did give me a free oil change once. So
Nice.
yeah,
Nice. The Meinecke way,
right.
right? So now on Facebook, you're on there as Tyler Wayne, right?
Great. Yeah,
So Wayne is your middle name.
yeah, yeah. Just gotta hide. I can't have myself all the way out there. So
Ah. We got to have some mystery, right?
right.
So tell me the story. So you and I met. How long has it been now? Eight
Been at
months.
least a few years, I would think. No, it's been about a year, Leo.
It's been
Yeah,
about a year. It's been
yeah, it's
about
been
a
about a
year.
year. Yeah,
So
that's right.
tell,
Yeah.
tell the story how you found me.
So I was on Facebook one day, and yeah, this was about 9 months ago or so. And I was just looking for things to do in the area. I was starting to um, just find my home here in Costa Mesa, and so looking around, always back then when you could do networking events, I made it a weekly thing. So um, something just told me, hey, you know what? I need to find people in my crowd that like to do things that I like to do, which is like hiking and camping, things like that. So that is how I found you. I searched hiking in Costa Mesa, and one of your Facebook groups came up, and next thing I know, we were doing a Leo's hiking group, I think it is.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah,
I love it when those things happen, because if it's always the same people that your close friends that are being invited, but nobody else from the outside. So I love those things. I have those happen to me probably like I'm gonna say like 5% of the time. Like
yeah,
there's always somebody, like one or two people that show up like have zero context with me. They're just
that's
like,
fun.
hey, this is a cool hike. I just want to go out and I want to meet some new people. Maybe I'm new in the area, whatever, and
Yeah,
seems nice and friendly. I always keep it super casual and try to help out, show people around, stuff like that. So now you obviously were into hiking before, and so tell everybody like where you're from and stuff.
yeah. So Midwest background, St. Louis, Missouri, born and raised. Lived there all the way up until about 25, and then after that, I decided to head out of the country for a little bit. I lived in South Korea for a year, taught English out there, and that went straight over to Russia. I moved to Sochi, Russia during the Olympics and all that. So taught English and did some work with the Olympics. Moved to Brazil for a little bit, and then came back and just decided one day, like, I'm going to drive to LA. And that's what I did. And that was about 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago exactly.
Wow, there's a lot in there. Actually, I didn't know a few of those things. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that's one of the reasons we're doing this, right? Because I had kind of, I mean, I don't want to say I feel isolated because I work out of my house normally anyways, but we do miss like some of the functions, the events that I try to coordinate and meet up with people and do stuff, whether it's networking, which you love, which we'll talk about,
Yeah.
the hiking and the outdoor stuff, and of course anything entrepreneurial. We both
Right
just love. So
there.
we
Right
like we totally like just hit it off right away.
there.
With all that stuff. But damn,
Yeah.
you taught what English in Korea?
It was crazy. Yeah, it feels like forever. Actually, it really was forever ago, almost 10 years ago. But yeah, it was great. It was a 1 year contract. I taught middle school, high school, and elementary, and so great learning experience. Perfect thing to do out of college. Yeah.
So that's definitely not something that most people have experience with. So just like give us like like a 45-second, like what that was about? What did you learn the most? And like, can you still speak Korean fluently?
I can still read Korean. I have no idea what I'm reading. I can, if it's like food, I can say a few things with food, just basic greetings, things like that. But for me, I think for anyone, I think if you really have an urge to get out and go see the world and just kind of change your perspective on things, I really don't think there's a better way to do it than spending extended time in another country, possibly learning another language if you can go that far with it. Um, but that's really where it came from for me. I really wanted to see to see the world and just have a different lens on things. And so I didn't really pick out South Korea in particular. It just I kind of looked at all the options of where I could teach, and that one just sort of fit me the best, and it worked out the best. So it was a very good experience.
So what was the most most shocking thing that you never expected when you went there?
You know, well, for it was kind of funny, the whole North Korea thing. It's really not that bad there. I think it's blown out of proportion with the media and everything, and it's over there. They don't even really think twice about it. But I was really amazed by the cleanliness. Just everywhere you went, the streets, the subways, everything was very clean. People were very polite, very hospitable, and so if you're somebody who's lived in a urban area your whole life and you're not familiar with what it's like in rural areas and things like that, I think you'd be like an area like South Korea would be a huge culture shock for you because they literally go from like these huge metropolis like Seoul to these tiny little rice paddy countrysides, and it's just crazy how it all blends together so nicely. So
Yeah, so in the US, our rural areas are
yeah.
nothing like their rural areas,
Right.
right? Totally
Exactly.
like, our rural areas, like you still get electricity, you still get trash
Right.
pickup, you still get, all the regular stuff that you would expect just in a smaller scale. But their rural area, like really like farming and like sustainability, like super, like you live off the land. I mean, you totally live off the land.
Oh
Like
yeah.
you don't have anything like shipped in and stuff like that, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So they really, really like live off the land. When I grew up in Taiwan, that was, definitely the big difference is what rural really is. Like you really like bare hands.
Right. Yeah, there's certainly parts of the country like that. Something you wouldn't really see here, like you said.
Yeah. So anyway, um, I want to just kind of let everybody know this was the reason that I started doing these, and we tried to do this live today, but um, Facebook and Zoom was not cooperating. They were not talking to each other. So we're going to
Right.
do this recorded, and then that way we're just going to upload it, and everybody will see it later. But I wanted to kind of get in touch with everybody that I can, that I think have value to give, that are my friends, that I enjoy, and I think everybody else would enjoy as well, and kind of just share a conversation, share about what you're up to, share knowledge, and so I want to try to do these live, hopefully, in the future, every day at 5 o'clock, and bring in all kinds of different people, whether it's people locally doing business people, um, entrepreneurial people, people who have background either in fitness and health, community people, people from the city who are providing services, to us every day. Right now we really, really appreciate everybody who is a nurse or a doctor that are working the front lines, plus all our city governments um, who are helping coordinate everything, getting information out, doing the proper guidelines and everything for everybody. So hopefully that's something I look forward to doing more for everybody that are connected with me on Facebook. But there's a few things I definitely want to talk to you about. And I think one of the things that we actually had a conversation about was this thing about being an introvert or an extrovert. So tell me your take on that.
Before I say anything, Leo, I do want to say thank you for having me on. I think you've built yourself quite the network, and I think it's great, and I love how you interact and stay in touch with everyone and engaged, and glad to be part of your network. So, but to best address that question, introvert, extrovert, what is it? How do you tell the difference? I want to ask you. I want to flip it over and ask you, Leo. What are you? Are you introvert? Are you an extrovert?
Well, I'll say this. Most people that meet me initially, they all think I'm an extrovert to begin with, because they always meet me in an environment where I'm out connecting and being more vocal. And sometimes I do take initiative, so I try to lead the group if leading is needed, some kind of organizing is needed to kind of get people together to achieve some sort of a good social result, if you will. So most people say that I'm an extrovert, and I used to throw parties and stuff like that, so they all think I'm an extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
Then when we sit down and we have these like really like one-on-one things, and we start talking about like the things that I like to do, on my own time and stuff like that, then they go, "Oh, you really are an introvert," because I like to spend time thinking about stuff. I like to spend time alone doing the stuff that I like, reading, all that stuff that comes along with introverts. I do. So
Okay.
when I was seeing, one of my counselors for years, is still a good friend of mine, and he'll say, you're kind of a bivert, and I was like, well, I guess so, because I have these two sides, and but they're not super like one way or the other.
Yeah.
But I probably, if somebody had to ask me, I would say, well, I'm probably lean on the introvert side, because that's where I would more default to.
Okay. And
So
I'll just say you did the way you just explained that question was 100, like 99% better than most people. I would say most people don't go that far, and they just say, "Oh, I'm an extrovert because I like to be in groups of people," or "I'm an introvert because I get kind of awkward and feel a depletion of my energy when I'm around people." So you explained what you just explained, talked about a little bit of what I want to cover today, which is different facets of an introvert and an extrovert, and why knowing and understanding those different facets can really shed some light on who you really are. So, is it a hard science? No, I don't think anyone truly knows or will know if somebody is 100% an extrovert or an introvert. Like you said, I think you said bivert, right?
yeah, well, that's what was told to me.
Yeah.
Um, but
There's that. There's ambivert. There's a few other ways to describe what you're talking about, and so there's different tests that measure introvert, extrovert. The one I'll show you is a Myers-Briggs, MBTI, and we'll just take a quick glance at it. Um, but then I want to cover a little bit of why this isn't why it's important to know, or at least why it's important to understand personality facets a little bit more in detail and what it can do for you. Just having that self-awareness.
yeah, so before you do that, can you kind of like go over like your background and why you're interested in this, how you got into this, how have
Sure.
you've studied it, and kind of like how you ended up at this point where a lot about it, and can really help people.
Yeah. So I kind of talked about having that teaching background. I knew right out of college that I wanted to get into. I actually thought I wanted to teach political science at a university level someday. I thought that was just 100% me, and so I figured teaching would be a great first step. So as I taught more and just I was around people more and more, I realized that I have to have a career that is people oriented. But I knew that maybe the educational environment wasn't really what I was looking for. Actually, after a few years of experience, I didn't feel as drawn to it. I didn't feel as motivated working in an educational environment. Nothing wrong with it. It's just for me personally. And so, I tried out some things, and at the time, I didn't even really know if somebody would have said to me, "Oh, you could be. What about like being a teacher for a company, like in training?" I would not have known what that really was back in those in my post-college days a few years after. I didn't really know what training and development was. I never really heard of that field, that department. And so a friend of mine actually told me about this. And so I looked into it. And that's really how I got into training and development, which is really a great transition from an educator role, maybe like a, a teacher in a grade school, or a lot of people that fit into that role are usually teachers. They have a teacher background, and that was me. And so part of that being in training and development is to you take your employee, you focus on your employees and their growth, and how do you get them to be better managers? How do you get them to be, better at time management? Different skills that the employee needs. So that's really how I got into personality training as well, is because I remember I had a manager at one point, and she said, I noticed that that whenever you give trainings, you really do a good job with engaging with your audience, and they come to you and do one-off talks and things like that. Do you want to try this? I usually lead this personality self-awareness training, but I would love to hand off the baton. And so she gave it to me as a challenge this is about 5 years ago now. So I have been doing trainings and about personality types for about 5 years now. And that's kind of a short story on it.
Awesome. So what should people know about all this stuff so that they can really maximize, parts of their lives, by understanding their own, personality, how they can benefit from all this stuff. So can you just talk about that a little bit?
Great question. I think if somebody would have asked me years ago, describe let's say you're in a job interview, right? And somebody says, tell us more about yourself, or, give us a quick little elevator speech on what motivates you, what inspires you, things like that. I think it would be so hard to answer that nowadays without really understanding my personality type, especially the facets within. I sometimes read it and I'm just like, wow, that's scary. It's scary how accurate that is. And there's like little scales that measure how far to one side you are compared to the other. And for me, it helps gives me that understanding of myself. So I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. And, just that awareness alone has given me a better game plan to, okay, I realize that this isn't an area that I naturally prefer. That's something I need to work on. How do I do that? I start looking into that. And for example, something I won't really cover today, but like I'm more thoughtful and more logic oriented than I am more harmony, emotions, and people focus. So if I have to make a decision, I usually rely on my logic and information at hand. So, just knowing that alone has allowed me in my career, it's allowed me to sort of check myself at the door before I make a big decision and just say, okay, let's make sure before you do this, before you say this, that you're considering both sides, and you sort of kind of have a balanced approach before you come out with it. So
Yeah. So you're probably more prone to be a scientist than a painter.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's one way to say it. Definitely.
Yeah. So I think most people have all heard of Myers-Briggs, test, and a lot of people know what they test out as, but I do know that people can also their test results could also change a little bit, right?
Mm. It's a big it's a just sort of something that people get mixed up with. And if you really, because I went through the actual MBTI practitioner program, and that's one of the first things that they told us is the theory of Myers-Briggs says that you do not change your preferences over time. However, and they use an example like everyone take if unless you're ambidextrous, everyone take a pen and put it in your opposite hand that you don't write with and try to write your name. And we talk about how awkward and weird that feels. And then the person just basically asks, okay, now just imagine if you did that every day for a year and you had, at the end of the year, you had to write your name just as perfectly. Would you practice? Would you get better at it? And then over time, yes, you would. And so basically what the Myers-Briggs says is that we do have one natural preference, introvert over extrovert or vice versa. But over time, some people can get so good at what the term is flexing. Some people can get so good at flexing that it's almost hard for them to tell which one they do prefer. They just don't really know. They're so used to sort of using both sides. So
Right. So that's a good point, because I was thinking back about my own experience. When I was in college, I played the piano. So now I had never played a musical instrument before the age of 19. Never had any lessons or nothing, but I started picking up piano around that time, basically as an adult, right? So if anybody ever played a musical instrument, you know you need both hands. Even if it's a guitar, you still need both hands to coordinate. You can't like one hand doing everything, right? Even if you play drums, you have both arms, right? So you have to learn how to use your weaker hand, your non-dominant hand. So especially with piano, because there's, it's a lot more intricate because you have to use your fingers and all that stuff. So I learned you actually practice your left hand a lot more than your right hand if you're right-handed. So you sit there, you practice your left hand a lot because that's weaker. So you learn to be left-handed from doing that. And so my left hand actually gotten a little bit more
skilled.
Yeah, I mean, skill, I don't know if that's the right word. It's like I feel comfortable doing a lot of things with my left hand.
Yeah.
Had I not had that experience, I would never have.
And the same goes for, an introvert and an extrovert. If you're an introvert and you choose to, stay indoors and not talk to people and not sort of flex and practice networking, things like that, it can show itself in a way that might be social awkwardness or
yeah.
So, but extroverts too now.
Yeah. So I think that I'm always, I mean, everybody it's up to them what they want to do. But I always think of it, just from a mindset perspective, like, oh, you know what? It would benefit me if I'm not good at social situations. It would benefit me if I go and try, and I try to enjoy it, and I try to, learn from other people how they do it. Try to have an interest in it, and then that would help me be better at it. And exactly the same with piano. Like I would have to practice the left hand way more than my right because I know I can do it with my right, but if I practice more with my left, then now I can, round out my skill set between the two.
How long has it been since you've played? Do you play regularly or?
Oh my God, I never do. I mean, I started picking up ukulele
Okay.
like a year ago, and I don't play that very often either. But I have a little bit of musical background, so it's easy for me to pick up. I can read notes, and I can understand how the structure works, so I can kind of teach myself. But I don't play any instruments on any regular basis. One of my dreams is that if I ever retired and stuff like that, I'll just sit there with a stack of music and books and just but I'm not retired yet, so I can't do that because it takes a lot of time, like golf. It takes a lot of time. So, but same thing with computers. So I worked in the tech industry for a long time, and you're sitting in front of the computer all the time. And if you're right-handed, you got your right mouse on the right hand, right? So I started feeling like my shoulders were off balance because I'm constantly like this, and the other hand down here. And a lot of people have this. Their back is messed up because they don't have that balance. And so my hand, people get carpal tunnel. Right. I would like, oh man, it's started getting sore. So I would switch my mouse to the other side. And then I would start using that side. And then eventually I get tired on that side. And then if I start to feel sore on my left arm, a left hand, I switch it over again so that I could like go back and forth. People are like, hey, how do you do that?
I'm gonna try it out now.
Yeah.
It almost seems like mouses are built for a certain hand, though. Well, I think this is like a right-handed mouse.
Yeah. Well, you got to get, so if it's a right-handed mouse, then that means you just got to adapt to where the button is on the left side.
Right.
So anyway, so that's cool. That's good to know for people like, hey, it's not just because you were more introverted to begin with doesn't mean that you're stuck there.
Yeah, and first of all, I didn't. You were saying you didn't know a few things about me, and I did not know you had a music background. So very cool. Um, but yeah, so what else can you do with this? Well, I've given some training to sales and business development people in the company I work for now on personality type training, and a lot of them do ask that question. Okay, well, other than making this would be interesting, of course, and I guess I can see the value in it, but how can it really help me at my job? And you were headed there. You kind of said it. And so one thing that I leave introverts with, and I want them to really think of the next time that they have to make relationships, they have to go network, things like that, is one thing that you can prep yourself on and just sort of tell yourself before you go to an event, or even if it's like a virtual lobby room, whatever you're doing to network nowadays, just think of it as like, who do I get to meet? Who do I get to talk to? Not who do I have to, right? Because that's sort of like where they begin. A lot of introverts just sort of walk into it with that, how many people do I have to talk to? Like, oh, what if I get awkward? What if this is weird? Just think of it as somewhere in that room, there's at least one person that you need to talk to for business purposes, most likely. Who is it? The only way you're going to find out is if you start talking to people, and then you give them a little script. And introverts actually, I believe introverts have an advantage when networking, especially, well, without getting too much into the personality types, especially the more organized ones that like structure. So if they carry with them or remember some sort of structure on how to talk to, maybe it's an acronym in their head of topics that they just go straight into, that way they don't feel like they're searching for questions or anything like that. Maybe that's another way that they can just help themselves to make it easy, and then from there it usually takes care of itself, but it can be a stumbling block in the beginning. So
Yeah, I know it's about changing the conversation in your head, like how you want to approach it. If it's positive, then you're more likely to do it. But if you tell yourself like you hate it, or you're awkward, or like people don't like you or whatever, then it's not going to go well.
right.
So,
And extroverts, at the same time, extroverts, you and I have gone to some networking events together, and the type of people that just hand out their cards and don't really connect with people and don't really get to know them. That's also something that extroverts can be guilty of as well. So I try to tell extroverts, hey, you know, try to be more interested than interesting, because people really feel that. They really feel that, if you're coming at them just wanting to talk about yourself and how cool you are, and, your prestige and all that. It's really, a lot of people they might be good at sort of nodding and just acting like they're interested, but overall they're probably going to walk away from that thinking that person didn't really care too much about what I have going on. So I always try to tell them that. And then also that people, for the most part, people remember how you made them feel, not so much what you had to tell them, not information and facts that you gave them, more so how you made them feel. So, and that kind of goes back to that whole logic and feeling balance. So try to make sure that you at least leave the conversation with the other person feeling good.
yeah, that's perfect. That was one of the other things that we wanted to talk about, right? So we started when you mentioned about networking, um, you know, but going off of what you were saying, like people want to know, they when they first meet you, they're sizing up like how do they compare or align with your energy, right? And that
Yeah.
that has a lot to do with how you feel based on that energy,
Yeah.
right? So if you come with, you know, this your nose up in the air energy, well, I don't know anybody that likes that really, you know,
Right.
right?
So
So
yeah,
yeah, so let's talk about networking and kind of just share with us like what you've been doing, what we've done, what's going on with the virtual reality world of networking,
yeah.
and like and just your thoughts.
I have to say I'm so passionate about networking because not only I've seen tremendous, it's led me to so many different things in my career. Through networking, I've been able to just have these wild and crazy opportunities come up in my career from working the Olympics and working the World Cup and the Super Bowls and all that. So that's 100% that's come from networking and just getting to know people. And so I can't get excited about it enough, and I can't, especially with somebody that, if somebody's trying to, they're looking for a breakthrough, or they're looking to embark on a new career path. I think networking is the first place that people need to focus. Okay, your resume, that's one place, but really, I think it's even more so today than it ever has been. Connections, the connections that you have, like the saying it goes, your net worth is your network, right? I think that's more true today than it's ever been. Um, so I mean that explains a little bit about why I'm passionate about it, and why I get excited about it is because everything that I've done, everything that is worth talking about and worth sharing with other people has come from networking. So I've been able to do some really cool things through the people that I've met and the connections that I've made with people. So
Yeah, totally right. Like everybody thinks like, oh, I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna make money. Like I'm gonna figure this out and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, you think about it. Sure, you got to have some skills, but it's not what you know. It's who you know.
right,
You can share if you have some knowledge. You can share that knowledge. When that knowledge is shared, you could be rewarded, and the people around you could be rewarded fivefold, tenfold,
right,
right? So that's super important. Like I always think about that. Like, hey, you know what? I grew up in the kind of culture, and so many people have like, hey, put your nose down, work, and don't talk to anybody. Like you're in a classroom or something like that. And like don't share notes. And this and that, right? But
right.
when you grow older, you're thinking like, oh man, I'm working this hard. I get what I get, but it could be so much more, right?
Yeah, yeah. People they seem to a lot of times, people try to look for these new positions or new opportunities, whatever it might be, and they're thinking so inward, and this is kind of this comes back to introvert extrovert a little bit, and introverts can be guilty sometimes of just thinking, not reflecting out but reflecting in, and they tend to just really only pay attention to what they're sharing with the world, like a resume or their profile, for example, and not really getting out there, not reaching out, not calling people, not checking in, not just talking to them. And so, for me, I that's my first question when people come to me. Hey, what do you recommend? I'm struggling. I need to find a new position, something like that. My first recommendation is always like, who have you talked to? Let's look at your list of people. Um, Maybe there's somebody here that we can just make a call to. So
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. So networking, super awesome. You and I have done our fair share, which we had fun with
yeah,
up until the shutdown. But
abruptly ended.
yeah, but now we're getting looped into a lot of really, actually, really, really quick, exciting time with the ease of virtual networking and stuff like that. You've been doing some?
I have been like a bystander through it and just kind of watched. I have yet to really get involved on a active basis. So I don't know, Leo. Have you tried it out or?
Well, I'll tell you. I have been invited, everything that I'm connected with, I'm invited to every single virtual get together networking um, ever. Like every day now,
Yeah,
there's at least, I lose count, but probably between three and 3 and 6 that I can go to at any given time during the day, and I can't go to them all. I got just, I got to work,
Right.
take care of clients and stuff like that. But I go to, a couple of the key ones, and some of them are weekly things. But it's, it saves a ton of time. You don't have to drive. You're not worried
That's
about
true.
dressing up. You're not worried about like what you look like, all that
Right.
stuff. You're on video anyways, and if you don't like it, well, you don't have to show your video and just chat, But I think most people are getting away from uh, being shy on camera now because they're almost like it's almost expected that you gotta get on camera
Yeah.
when you're live on video now. Like people are like, oh, I don't look good on video, like, hey,
Got to get over
you
it.
gotta show yourself, otherwise we're gonna can't talk to you. We don't know who you are, right? So
Right.
they're treating it more like almost like a face-to-face thing, which I love. I think just people are just way overblown on like how they look on camera and stuff like that. Just show up as you are. You are who you are. People are gonna
Yeah.
love you for what you contribute, what you're showing up and you're talking and connecting. That's the value, not exactly what you look like.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty soon we're all gonna have hair down to our shoulders anyway.
Well, it's interesting when you talked about like kind of feeling someone's energy and just kind of measuring them up a little bit when you get to meet them when you're networking, when you're physically seeing them. That's something that I don't think people have down yet, including myself. I've been, like I said, I've been to some of these and I've talked to people. I, that's been the one thing that's can't really replace the human contact, right? Like when you meet somebody, their eyes are on you. Like right now, I'm looking at you, Leo, but if I were to look here, you wouldn't be able to know, are you really listening to me? Are you really looking at me when I talk? So there is a little bit of that connection that is missed through platforms like Zoom, but it's great still. I mean, there's
Yeah,
not to say it's bad or anything.
I think you can't like you can't compare like apples to oranges. This is how we can communicate online, which is great. You can't of course all that senses chemicals, like I can see you sweat but then I can't smell you sweat, all that stuff, and all the male female kind of thing going on with the chemistry that's unconscious and all that stuff. But I
Yeah.
will say this, being online and being on Zoom like you and I are right now, there's very little distractions really. When you're at an
Yes, very
event,
true.
somebody can like cut in and start talking to you, break your conversation, they butt in, or somebody, walks by or say something like you're like you can't help but like you see it off the side of your eye,
Yeah.
take your attention off for a second. Like here, you and I
Free
like,
drinks, free
yeah,
food.
we have much less distractions here.
So
Of
true.
course, you're in your room and you can like look around and you can like distract you with something else, but that it's just um, not nearly as distracting as some things moving around while you're actually at an event. Some lady with a tray of hors d'oeuvre would come up, like you totally lose your train of thought and stuff like that, right? So I
So
will
true.
say, there's goods and bad for everything, and that's one thing that I enjoy. Like you really like focus more. It helps you to focus more. At the end of the day, if you don't want to focus, you won't focus. Um, but that's what I like about it, and the efficiency of it. Like
Yeah.
if I wanted to, I can shoot out a message to 10 people right now. We could have a little party here right now. People can just come on.
So
There's no
true.
commute time. There's people just grab their phone, they're on. So the efficiency is there. So there's a lot to be enjoyed, and I kind of enjoy that a lot. But hey, I'm not gonna lie, I miss the heck out of like my volleyball, group where I play volleyball every weekend. The hiking that I'm looking forward to, just physically being around people, walking and talking and all that kind of stuff. Um, you know, Giving people hugs, handshakes, all that stuff. So I miss it a lot, but we just make the best out of the situation, right?
I think even after all this, though, we are going to move more things to virtual platforms like this. I think, I mean, me being in financial services like I do right now, yeah, efficiency is huge. I don't have to drive to people's homes. to meet with them, we can just do it on here on Zoom, and that's worked out very well. So yeah, I definitely see
Yeah, cool. All right, so let's see. We talked about where you were from,
that. You know,
career,
it,
career.
I really wanted to share. I did want to share with you a little bit on the introvert, extrovert,
Yeah,
the
yeah. Go for it. Go for it.
different facets. So I am going to share my screen real quick.
Yeah, do it.
Let me make sure I got the right thing going here. Um, Leo, you can see this.
Yeah, there we go.
Should be good. Cool. And let's see. How do I move
Cool.
this
Interpretive
down to
report.
bottom? So what I'm showing you guys is the actual MBTI Myers-Briggs type indicator, step 2 interpretive report. So this is the most comprehensive Myers-Briggs report you can get. There's multiple kinds, but this one breaks it down as comprehensively as you can get. So I did this one back in, yeah, almost 3 years ago.
So this is a report on you.
Yeah,
Okay.
100%. And so without, again, I'm not going to go through all the different dichotomies and personality, pairs of opposites and all that, but my type ENTJ, and now this is the only one we're going to focus on today. But then I want to show you a little bit on the facets of it. And this is really cool stuff. It's scary. So as I'm doing this, I sort of want you, the viewer, to just think of it yourself, and the things I talk about, be thinking about you and where do you think you line up. So the first thing is, and so this is like a popular question right now. It's a super trendy question. They say, I was looking it up on Google Trends the other day, and it's really popular. How to know if I'm an extrovert or an introvert. So all these people are looking this up on Google right now. So how does Myers-Briggs define it? Well, they basically say an extrovert focuses on the outside world. They get energy. That's like the key word here. Get energy through interacting with people and or doing things. So basically you get energy from being outside of your own self. Introvert, flip side, you focus on your inner world. You get energy from reflecting inwardly on information, ideas, and or concepts. And so what I want to do is just go down and focus on the different facets. So each different pairs of opposite has 5 facets under it, and they are like polar opposites. So basically you're either one or the other, or you're in the mid zone. And I'll show that here on a graph in just a minute. All right, so this is where it gets really cool and scary. So basically, when you do the whole Myers-Briggs assessment, they're measuring how many questions you answered that suggest that you are one way or the other, like the scale shows. So because I'm an extrovert, any of the facets that fall on the extrovert side are in preference. I'm not an introvert, so anything that falls on the introvert side is out of preference. The mid zone is just basically saying that through your answers, the test couldn't determine which way you go, which way you prefer. Maybe it depends, and that basically means that you're very good at flexing and using both. So when I read this for the first time, I just was like blown away by how well understood this test was, and or how much better it helped me to understand myself. And so, Leo, and I think this totally goes for you as well. A lot of people say, well, I love to network. I love to go meet new people. I love connecting people. That's like a pretty popular buzzword right now. Connector. I'm like a master connector. And so people automatically assume, oh, I'm the connector type. I'm an extrovert. Well, in my case, that's 100% me. I love to initiate conversations. I love to introduce people to others. I have no problem doing that. If I were to talk to one of your friends, Leo, somebody I've never met before, and they brought up a topic and it just automatically made me think of somebody that they need to talk to, it's almost uncomfortable for me to not to not make that introduction. I just feel the urge. I have to do it. So I totally agree with this. Highly initiating. On the flip side, what is receiving? So a receiving type of person would be more reserved, low key. They prefer to have somebody introduce them to somebody else, or not at all. Um, so, again, as I'm doing this, maybe you think about, well, where do I line up? If a five, for example, just means like I had five different answers that uh, basically said I was more initiating. So out of the five questions that tried to find out if am I initiating or receiving, all five were initiating. If that makes sense. What do
Yeah.
you think, Leo? Where would you put yours?
Um, yeah. Again, that's a little tough. I think for the initiating and receiving, I'd probably be somewhere in closer to the middle zone.
Middle.
So that given depending on the different questions, I might be more wanting to receive, and on some others, I might be more wanting to initiate. So I'd probably land in the mid zone there.
Sure. And another thing, as you're doing this, think about you naturally. Don't think about like just your work self or just your hiking, friends type of person. Think about like who you are naturally. So if you're driving home from work, you're maybe you're by yourself, um, just who you are that most of the time, not just only work. Because a lot of people say, "Oh no, that's me 100%. You should see me at work," and I'm like, well, it's not only thinking about your work self. And this one I think is totally me as well, expressive versus contained. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I definitely prefer to be not all out there. I'm not putting on a show with my hands and things like that. I'm not, um, completely animated. I am more like on the contained side. So when you read this assessment and it breaks down, it shows a two. I think that's completely accurate of where my personality lines up. What do you think, Leo?
Well, that's interesting, right? Because usually, if you're more on the extrovert side, you're usually not as contained. Most people, right? Like if you were to describe an extrovert, you wouldn't think that they would, be as contained most of the time. So
Right.
that's kind of interesting that it's kind of on that side for you.
And exactly. And so that's why a lot of people, they're like, I don't know, I think I'm both. I can't really tell what I am. And what you're describing right now is part of that confusion that a lot of people have, is because they've never really seen things like this break them down in more detail. I can still have some introvert out of preference facets about me, but it doesn't make me an introvert. This is just one of them that I do tend to be more introverted on.
Mhm.
Um, so this one's real interesting, gregarious and intimate. I am 100%. I actually thought this would be more intimate because what you and I are doing right now, Leo, I prefer that compared to being in a big group like gregarious is. So, and it's funny, right? Because you and I, we both love to go to networking events, but um, I tend to find if the group is bigger than like two, three people, it can be a little bit overwhelming, and it's sort of hard to um, just be part of this big group and be contributing equally and just having finding time to talk and things like that. So being part of a broad circle, a big group of people can be a little bit challenging for me. That one-on-one is definitely what I prefer.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you think
definitely.
you're like the same way, or what do you think?
Um, I probably prefer to be on the more intimate side, uh,
Yeah.
but the gregarious side, I think it's different. Like if you have more than two people in a group and you're communicating with each other, you know, um, it's really hard that once you get more than two people, let's say three or four or five people, it's
Yeah.
really hard for all five of the people to to gel together in a conversation because it could be so um, the chances are them with different interests and um, uh, different goals and
Right.
how they communicate, all those things could factor in and cause that group to kind of break off,
Right.
So the two people that seem to have similar conversations, the things that they're interested in and talk about, they'll kind of break off. That's what I notice, you know. So so I don't know. I mean, I'm no expert at that, of course. Some people can definitely hold court, you know, in more in larger, you know, larger group. You know, we're talking like, you know, more than two or three, you know. So
Yeah, if you were to do this, and maybe I'll send it over to you a link to complete it later. I would be interested to know. But I think this, when do you see the value? When do you see the benefit of doing this type of assessment? Well, by breaking it down in such detail, I think you start to. For me, I understand myself better. I'm able to, not feel like, man, why do I love going to networking events, but I struggle in large groups. Like, what is that about me? Is that weird? Is that, what is that? Rather than having that thought that I know I've actually had before. Now it's more like, no, like I need to actually seek out that one person, one or two people that I want to have a conversation with. I don't want to be in this big circle talking back and forth. For some people, they love it and they gravitate to that. For me, not so much. And so I make a little bit better use of my time, and I know how to have a better interaction with somebody as a result. So it definitely shifts. It definitely shapes the way I approach my networking for sure. Active versus reflective. This one is like more mid zone. It does sort of depend on the situation. This can be kind of hard to figure out, but do I want to be interactive? Do I want contact? Do I want to listen and speak? Compared to reflective, do I prefer my space? Do I want to be an onlooker, read and write? It really does depend. This one is challenging. It kind of depends on the topic and what we're talking about. So yeah, if I was highly active, then that would mean that, I'm somebody that I just have that urge. I have to get up. I have to talk. I have to be moving around and things like that. I don't really have that urge. But if you are somebody that feels that, then most likely you're on the active side. Whereas if that makes you uncomfortable and you sort of feel like, I'm so worried about, like what I'm saying and how I appear to others. Well, it might not mean that you have self-conscious issues or anything like that. Or, it might just actually mean that you prefer, and what you really want to be doing right now is reflecting, just kind of being a bystander and just watching and taking notes.
yeah, for sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Enthusiastic. I think this one describes me pretty well. Enthusiastic, lively, energetic. The only thing I don't really agree with, I'm not really seeking the spotlight. That's not really my preference. But compared to being calm and quiet and wanting solitude, especially nowadays, I think we all have a, a surplus of solitude
Yeah.
days
So
in our
if
life
you
right
were,
now.
yeah, if you were seeking spotlight, then maybe that would push you to a five, right?
Yeah, and you could be right on that. I was a little surprised by the four. I thought it'd be more like three, but
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the whole thing, right? So we can't take these things with, you know, exacto knives or anything, right?
yeah. So just something I wanted to share. I think it's really cool. A lot of people, not too many people actually do the step two and go that far into their Myers Briggs. So I think it's good awareness to know, and just something that can definitely benefit you in your career.
Yeah, I think for most people, it's not an ongoing study, which is a shame. I think it should be an ongoing study,
Yeah.
for themselves, and people are busy in their lives, and you know, they don't take as much time to reflect on, like, hey, you know, what could I have done that different? Why did I do this way? And how did it result? You know, did it work out the way I wanted to work out or not? You know,
Yeah.
so there's always, you know, good, uh, there's always opportunities to do that, you know, to reflect. And so that's one of the, so you are into this because you help people with this. Is that kind of the deal?
I'm looking to build this brand, so to speak, where yeah, can I go to somebody's workplace and conduct a personality training seminar with them? Could I do this one-on-one with them through Zoom? Like right now, that would be a better option. Um, so that is something that I'm looking to do on the side. I bring it into my work every day, working into, and I haven't really explained this well, but so I do work full time in HR, in a corporate learning and development role. But then I also work on the side as a financial advisor. And so there's not a single day that goes by where this information doesn't help me and I'm not thinking about it. So um, yeah, like aside from that, I also would love to just sort of a passion project. Just have interpretive sessions with people. They take the assessment. We break it down and I talk with them, help guide them through, okay, how can you utilize this information as a job seeker, as a business development rep, as a new manager, as a lead, as an employee who wants to become a manager, whatever that person is, whatever they do. I feel like knowing this information in more depth can benefit them.
Cool, cool. So if people have questions and want to pursue more, obviously they can contact you. So, but I mean, we'll definitely do this again. We can dig a little bit more deeper into how we do our networking, what's going on, what kinds of things, what kind of people and things that we're connecting with.
Yeah,
Bring them on. We can just to try to share experiences that would help other people, right?
of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and if anyone's watching, if you feel like, oh, I don't know, networking's not my thing, just go with Leo. He makes you feel like he makes you feel at ease, and he'll sort of like warm you up a little bit. So he's a great person to go network with.
Well, cool. Same with you. We always try to just introduce people, and you always bring people around, so that's super awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When's
Uh,
our next hike, buddy?
oh my God, as soon as possible. Like
Right.
we're still locked down till at least May 15th, right? Until
Yeah,
they
yeah.
tell us like, hey, what's next, right? So, but I've been hiking on my own. You've seen some live videos, so if people want to at least you know experience it,
Virtually with you.
online, it definitely. I'm getting up early in the mornings to do that. So awesome, awesome. So uh, Tyler, let's wrap this up, and we'll be respectful of everybody's time. Thank you for all sticking with us. You can tell Tyler can have a lot to share, so we'll hope to bring him on soon again and talk about some more of the personality stuff, some more of the networking stuff. People can contact you. You know,
Yeah, sure. I'll put my email address, my phone number in the chat, and feel free to share it.
yeah, awesome. Do that, or just DM. It's so much easier. We got like 10
Or
different
that,
ways
yeah.
to contact people now. So if you're watching this video, feel free to reach out. If you want to network, feel free to reach out.
I'd
Um,
love to.
yeah. So anybody who's watching, if you like, what we're doing here, just sharing a conversation, sharing your expertise, sharing a little personal stuff. We're gonna try to do this. Come back and jump on these videos with us. We would love to be live so that you can ask questions, you can interact with us. Fortunately, it didn't work that way today, but we will try again tomorrow. So thanks very much for joining me. Thank you, Tyler. Hope you all have a great day. Talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Leo.